Well, happy Monday to anybody that is tuning in. This is another brand new stream on Longbox Punk. That's me. I'm Chris. I'm the punk. And I am joined by my fellow podcaster, fellow indie comic lover, and super team up pal extraordinaire, Brandon, my man. What is up? How are you? Happy Monday to you, sir.
Hello, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so hyped to hang out, to talk about all the things going on. And this has been a very long-awaited conversation for both of us. We've been admiring each other from afar and sharing and promoting and all that type of stuff. And so for us to finally get to talk, I'm so hyped. And I will say, dude, the only reason why I think I haven't hit you up to talk before is because I thought you only did streams at 10 p.m. And so I was like, man, it's going to be forever till I get on this guy's show. And then I saw your time slots and I was like, it's before that. Yes, I'm so excited. So yeah, so hyped. I have to stay up late.
Yeah, so the 10 p.m. is I do that Instagram live every Wednesday, and I bumped that up because I was like 10 p.m. why am I doing this to myself? I'm just going to go at 9. So I started going at 9, and I have more people tuning in because it's earlier and more engagement with the live stream comments and stuff. And so it's just, I'm like, all right, 9 p.m. it is. That's perfect. It is a nice way to end New Comic Book Day. And because at this point, my New Comic Book Day consists of opening Kickstarter rewards that I'm getting because I don't make it to my local shop every Wednesday. So that's what that is.
I'm glad. It's awesome though. It's a weird conversion going from indie books or mainstream books into indie and getting associated with that, and then that takes over your comic book reading agenda to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't read nearly as many mainstream books anymore just because we're so involved with the network of community you're trying to keep up. But I do miss the Wednesday pull list. It was an addiction. I have 40 boxes of comics that back that up. I need to get rid of.
I'm gonna need you to say that again louder for my wife so that she thinks that my 12 aren't a problem.
No, that is cake. Oh my gosh, try moving 3 times in the last 3 years and you'll really begin to hate physical comics.
Yeah, see, and the space alone is the reason why anymore I'm trending even towards I'm just gonna get the digital. I don't need another floppy to put in another long box because I don't have the space for it. I'm out of space now in my office. So
yeah, it's weird. It's real. Do I switch to digital for all my mainstream stuff and then keep indies physical because that's what really helps them, but then digitals also help indies, you know what I mean? It's a weird balance of where are my priorities of comfort of reading that's going to force me to read it, because if I get digital comics, I fill my iPad and I have 200 gigs because now I have everything I want, and then I'm just overwhelmed and I don't read half of it still. So
yeah,
it's
this
brutal war.
This from the guy who has a folder on my laptop of Kickstarter rewards, and it's got a ton of stuff. And then I have a red folder so that I know oh, I already read that one, and I just move it over, and it's got 4 comics in it, and everything else is all completely full, 30 to 50 items of, and I'm just I need to read more digitally.
yeah, I feel you.
So this is going to be a lot of fun. I like you said, we have been trying to make something work for a while now. You're everywhere all the time for everything, indie comics. And so as a what I see as a cornerstone of the indie comics community, because everybody knows Comics Wall Springs. Everybody knows or should know you by name, by face, because you're the Instinct Inc. podcast. You're the guy behind Apollo City Comics. What don't you do? You write comics. Do you also do the drawing on comics?
I'm trying to start drawing a comic. It's downstairs. I just did a mini comic. Me and my girlfriend are working on a little story, so I just did that, and I'm working on a new project with Jeremy John Hansen, and I feel like I could do little backup stories in that one because it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think that's going to be my first hack at drawing a comic. I'm not there yet. I've been drawing, I guess, consistently now since last May. Because of Spilled Ink and everything, what we do live on Thursday nights on the CWS YouTube, that's really inspired me. But it's a weird balance now because I have so many stories I need to write. I'm trying to be okay, where's my brain at? Do I write the comic that I need to get done because I have artists waiting for me, or do I try to like grow my art skills? And so I guess with anything I do, there's that balance of time and how am I work through things and juggle it all, I guess. Yeah, I kind of opened to crazy kind of stuff, and now I'm really busy.
See, I see that as a really good problem to have when you just have so many things that not only are you like energized by doing and interested in, but also like it's helping put over other people, and it's, you know, getting great conversations for yourself with other people. Like that's how I see, that's why I started this show, is like I kind of fell into doing this by accident because I just wanted to talk to comic people about comic books and music. And now almost a year later, here I am, and I'm like, I have like a thing, and like people are reaching out to me to like review comics and stuff, and I never like that was never on my radar for this. And
it's
so
really cool.
like it's wild.
It's so awesome.
And it's not even a year old yet.
Dude, yeah, I mean that's what's exciting about you and that journey, because like you have like a fan base, and like I love seeing how much success you've had in a year. Because like when I first started doing podcasting, dude, like there was such a lull period. I didn't find a community yet, I guess, but there was such a T'Challa. Sorry, my cat. T'Challa.
Is your cat
T'Challa? Yes. Quick story. Before we dive into that. So I was walking my dogs one night, and I was with my friend Sam. He came over for dinner, and we were like walking. It was when I lived back home in El Paso, and we were walking by the spot, and I was like, dude, last night this little black cat just jumped out of nowhere and like was trying to like hang out with us, and he wouldn't leave, and it was really trippy. So we put him back in this yard, and you know, he was like, dude, that's insane, how cute though. And then the cat popped back up, and I was like, that's him. This is the guy. And then we were like, all right, dude, you need to go home. You need to like, you can't come with us. Like we got dinner cooking. And so we pushed him back into the yard over the fence. And then I was walking the dogs, and I would take them to this school right across the street from me. And then we see the cat jump over the wall and then jump into the intersection. And there was a four-way stop, or a four-way, you know, light area. And so all these cars were at a red light, and he walked in the middle of the street, and then he just sat there. And then like there's a red light, and I had never seen that many cars in that street before. There was like 14, 15 cars lined up. And then there's this little baby cat right there. And I'm like, me and Sam were like, dude, what do we do? Do we get the cat? Like, dude, should we like this dude? What the heck? And I was like, Sam, go get the cat. And so Sam ran and got the cat, and like I ended up taking the cat home. And I'm looking up like, what do? I just found a stray cat on Google and whatnot. And I opened my phone, and it's Chadwick Boseman had just passed away. And so I was just like, oh, whoa. But also, Chadwick Boseman passed away on Jack Kirby's birthday. So the fact that it was Jack Kirby's birthday and Chadwick Boseman passed away, and then I have found this black cat, I was like, T'Challa.
T'Challa, yeah. Is it like T'Challa Kirby?
Oh my gosh, it should have been T'Challa Kirby. No, it's just T'Challa, the demon asshole cat that I just can't.
Perfect. But no, I hope that whole thing is like on the birth certificate. T'Challa, the asshole cat. That's a demon that I just can't.
It was. I almost wanted to call him like McGinnis or Damien, because I wanted just to be like McGinnis, just, you know, like Batman Beyond reference, and just yell at him all the time. But
yeah,
no, T'Challa worked.
That's so. I love that you just made a Batman Beyond reference. Like I love Batman Beyond so much.
Top tier.
It's so good.
I did forget what I was saying before that though.
We were definitely talking about something before that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll pop back up at some point.
Yeah, no, this is the beauty of live streams, is like this just happens. So, all right. So, for some sort of structure, like how did you get into comics to begin with? Like, what's your origin story? And then how did you end up now doing the 74 things that you do in the industry?
I got into comics because of my dad when I was like really young. He just showed me a bunch of like rock and roll magazines, and in that shuffle was a couple of DC comics and like maybe a couple Marvel comics or something. But the first comic I remember holding and being like, whoa, what is this? Like, I want to know about it. And I read the comic over and over as a kid. It didn't make any sense to me. It just baffled me, because then there's characters in there you just never hear about again, and all sorts of stuff, because it was Crisis on Infinite Earths #1,
Oh,
from
wow.
the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that awesome cover where they're just like, it's, they're in space and like all the worlds are going across, and you have Pharaoh right there. And you're like, who's Pharaoh? Like nobody, he doesn't pop up for anything for years. So that
Yeah.
confused me. I thought it was Spectre. I thought it was like Constantine, all sorts of stuff. But like, yeah, I remember like looking and trying to read Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's a lot to consume at once for
Yeah.
like anybody, and like when you only have issue like 1, 2, and like 7 or something, like it doesn't like piece together well. But yeah, I got into music and comics, and then for some reason like music kind of overrode comics for years in my life. I was obsessed with Kiss and Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin and Motley Crue and like all these bands when I was a kid,
Yeah.
Foghat and stuff, Jimi Hendrix, because that's what my dad just brought me up on. I didn't know anything else but like Judas Priest, you know what I mean? Like just that, and then I would look at superheroes in comics, and it all made sense. You got the tight
Mm.
leather, like you got these outfits that are extravagant, and these great things in symbolism and cool stage presence. Like you look at Kiss and Gene Simmons, and you look at Spawn, and you're like, this makes sense. Like this is
Yeah.
just makes sense. Like it just all pieced together for me. And I just played music for most of my life. I got my bass at 14, and I just played music for years and years and years and years, and had a touring band and did all that cool stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But as the band fell apart, my taste for music was like I just wasn't feeling it. I just
Mm.
really it got real spiteful. At the same time, I had a relationship falling apart, and I was moving, and it was all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And I had rediscovered comics recently. I think I was trying to find an escape from music, and I got back into like Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth and
Okay. Yeah.
some of those books. Yeah, like Flashpoint was coming out around that time too, which was a lot of fun. And then I discovered like beyond what I already knew in comics, which was Marvel and DC, I discovered the Invisibles and Sandman and Miracle Man.
Yeah.
And I remember reading Miracle Man, and that book just blew me away. The first chapter, like when he's talking about the explosion, and it's so trippy. And so I just like wanted to figure out how to get into comics. And I was like, I don't know how to get into comics. I knew I had story ideas and things I wanted to write, but I didn't know how to write them either,
Mm.
or how to
Yeah.
find an artist and do all the things when you're first trying to figure out how to make. Now I can make a comic in a second. I just started a new project like Sunday, which is great, and have an artist, and we're working out details. But like when you're starting, you're so lost and confused because you don't know anyone, and you have to go on like weird websites that don't even like with URLs that you don't recognize or even know to find somebody that'll do it. And I had people send pitches and concept art and all sorts of things like Teenage Babylon and the broadcast dialogues I've been trying to do for years, and it just never fruitioned until
Mm.
recently. So yeah, I was trying to find a way. So I started doing comic book journalism. Like I started writing for websites. Oh dang, Hannah Williamson. Nader Dog Hal Jordan from Green Lantern. Love that. Yeah, so good.
Mhm.
But yeah, I started writing for these websites, and they sent me to like New York Comic Con to like interview people, and that's where I got a bunch of my first interviewing experience going, and just writing and analyzing of comics. And from then the websites kind of fell apart. Like the people that were running it weren't working out, and I just left. And I was like, how else can I do what I was doing, but like my own way? Because every time I would listen to like Word Balloon and like I don't know, a dozen other comic book podcast interview shows. Word Balloon was my favorite at the time, John Sutcher's. But like everyone has their different journey of getting into comics somehow.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really gets in the same way. And so I started Apollo City Comics, the podcast, because I had some friends doing a podcast. And I was like, I'm just going to analyze comics and just make it a gateway for people to like jump in, like, because I knew how confusing it was just to dive into comics.
Yeah.
And where do I start? What can I read? So we would just cover these books and movies, and dude, that's what we were talking. This is what we were talking about before. Like I respect what you're doing in your fan base and like what you've built, because like when Apollo started, dude, like nobody cared, nobody fucking listened, like nobody like bothered with it. Like I had a handful of friends checking it out because it was my first podcast, so they listened to the first few episodes.
Yep.
And so like you like, dude, I did this for years, and I was trying to figure out how to make it work, and for some reason Apollo just like never stopped. And once COVID hit, it kind of rejuvenated the podcast, because then I met this dude, Brandon Moncada, at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019. And so when COVID hit, I was like, hey, dude, you want to come on the podcast? We're doing it virtual now. And then I just kind of replaced my old co-host. And like because we had stuff going on, it just didn't work out. And you can listen to that Kingdom Come episode. Like we got into beef about it. It was stupid. It was so stupid. He didn't get Superman, dude. It just like didn't make sense to me. I was like, you just took away the whole story. Anyways, so I found Brandon Moncada, and it just like it worked out so well. We were just analyzing comics, and it's just what I wanted in the show. It was like as if you were in the room with us, reading a comic book and series, and we're just going over it. And then we started doing movie commentaries because COVID was happening and you couldn't go to the movies, so movie commentaries were really cool. And then things just kept on spiraling, and then my life changed completely. It did a total 180, and I moved across the country, and then I met Alex Batts, who had quite, I guess that's where my comic book stuff starts, is when I moved across the country. That's where the podcasting kind of stopped. But I went to Baltimore Comic-Con. I had a really great opportunity. And then that's where I met CWS and LKC. And then my whole life turned into comics at that point. It was just a weird tunnel to get to that, point of, but that was what, 2 years ago? And I mean, so I've been doing Apollo since 2018. And it really took until 2020. What year is it? Yeah. 2022.
Yeah.
I guess 23 is when I 23 is when I put my first book out.
Okay.
But it took me like 2018, like 6 years just to get to that point, to like meet the right people and be surrounded by the right people and have the right team and then execute stuff. It happened all at once. Like I can't even say that the CWS stuff happened separately from me making comics. It all just blended together, and this entire last 2 years has been like a roller coaster.
That's awesome.
It was a lot.
I mean, why drink out of a garden hose when you can drink out of a fire hose? So like, I'm one of those, like, I'm either everything is full blast or it's nothing at all. And
I don't even know how to trim that story. Like, it's just so much like, and that's like not even the comic book stuff. It's just like, that's what got me to start making comics and get to a point where I could make comics, which is insane how long that road can be, like I feel like anyone who feels discouraged on like, oh, it's taking me too long to make my first book, like I'm having troubles, like should I give up, it's not working out, it's like just give it time. Like you really just got to like give it time, and you will meet the right people or person that's going to make it all work out for you. It's about, I mean, 90% of doing what we do is showing up. And that last 10% can be whatever. Honestly, like it's just having a good time.
Right. Just have fun. If you're having fun, and it comes up a lot of like, I just made a book that I wanted to see, or I wanted to see characters that looked or had character traits that I do that I didn't see represented anywhere else. So I just made that book. Like if that's what's motivating you, I feel like those are the stories that end up resonating more with audiences than they'll like, oh, people like ninja, so I'm just going to make a ninja book because I know that that's going to sell. Like it probably will, but I would much rather read the book that has that tie from the author. Because then if I'm at a con and I'm walking the floor and someone's like, ninjas are cool, you want a ninja comic? I'm like, they are cool, you're right, but like probably not.
Why
man.
Your ninja comic? Yeah, good.
Like I'm going to go to that guy who wrote like a almost autobiographical rock story about like how he started a band that took over the world and like why that works. I'm probably going to buy it from him, like that's just where, and I like action in comics. I went through the superhero thing, and now I'm in a point where I'm like, I've read so many superhero books that like, give me something different. Give me like, I love horror. I love sci-fi. And especially if it's sci-fi with horror, like that's my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. And because it's done so well, usually in comics, right? Where it's like, I don't know, man, I could go on about horror comics for days. Cause I just think like, it's such a unique like subgenre that you can play with, and you can do anything in horror that doesn't work in any other genre. So, make some horror comics, people, is what I'm trying to say. Cause then I'll buy them from you is is where we're at.
Crazy. Like the horror anthology we're doing right now is that was such a challenging thing to do, especially for me, because I'm not like a big horror person. I do like horror,
Mm,
but I'm so new to horror. I didn't start getting into it until a couple years ago, and really not till I started dating my girlfriend right now because she's a huge horror fan. I've watched more horror stuff with her than like anything else, and so like horror for me, like I'm very picky. I'm very hi booby. I'm very like I'm when it comes to horror, I like Lovecraft stuff, like Midsommar, that
yeah.
type of vibe and everything. Those are my kind of the psychological, like trippy horror. My deep tomato. Um, and so like right, like I'm not a big slasher person. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not a big like guts and like I cringe, dude. Like I can't do it. Like I'm super bush when it comes to like stuff like incisions and I can't do needles. Like needles terrify me.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I think getting stabbed in general is like a big fear of mine. So a lot of that just like is rough.
Yeah.
But
So
horror
did
is
you
like
watch Saw 2 where they're in the house
oh
and
yeah.
the chick gets pushed into the
Oh
pit
my
with all
god,
the needles?
so god,
She's like
dude, that's
rolling
yes,
around,
exactly.
you
It's
know?
traumatizing, dude. Plus the glass, like I'm a
Yeah.
complete wuss when it comes to a lot of that stuff, for sure. 100%. Yeah, especially horror stuff. But
Yeah.
you're right. Like I feel the same way about comics and stories. Like I think everything I'm writing or my projects that I have going on, all of them are I don't have a superhero story in me, and I grew up on Batman and DC and Marvel, and that's what I love. I love superhero comics. I love
Mhm.
the movies. I love all that stuff. I'm a super big superhero fan, like for sure. But I don't have like a superhero story in me. But
Yeah.
when it came down to being like, what's a story that I can tell? That's where it came down to like, oh, that's where Teenage Babylon came into play, and
Mm.
that's where Fake Your Death started, because they were stories that were kind of like just like they're very autobiographical, like of me and like some people I know, and like and I just turned up the volume on 11 on all of it, like every single thing in my life I just turned up to 11, and I was like, I'm gonna write a story about this. But also like I pull a lot from music. I pull a whole lot from music. I mean, Fake Your Death is a My Chemical Romance song, in case anyone that ever questions that is 100% a My Chemical Romance song. But like even like everything for Teenage Babylon, like that entire idea kind of came to me in high school when I was a senior. And that was because I got really into like fucking Boxcar Racer and Angels and Airwaves, and
Yeah,
I
you
was trying
did.
to like figure out the story. Yeah, I'm a huge Tom DeLonge fanatic for one. Everything I do 100% is based off of like Tom, the projects, the how I do things. I've been announcing this project for way too long, and it hasn't come out yet. It's a total Tom DeLonge thing to do. Um, so you remember Mod Life? Remember those days? Like just hearing about stuff for like years, and you're like, it's never gonna happen. Where's this
Uh-huh.
film, dude? Where the fuck is this Angels and Airwaves documentary from the Lifeforms album that's never gonna come out?
Did
Apparently, yeah.
I just got speaking of that, I just today got I ordered the Lillian graphic novel from Z2.
Oh, I want to read
Like
that. Yeah.
I just got it today. Like I'll be unboxing it on Wednesday because at this point I don't open anything without a camera in front of me because I have something wrong with me. But like, yeah, so I just got it today. And I was like, God, I ordered this in like 2019, maybe. Like I
Gosh,
don't even know how long it's been, but I finally got it, and now I'm just like,
that's
cool,
insane.
cool, cool, cool.
Let me know how it is. I would love to like know if it was worth buying or not, because I did not buy it. T'Challa, stop it. Sorry, cats are annoying. And I got Booby here being ridiculous too. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, like literally, like Boxcar Racer, dude. That album inspired the hell out of me, and like I found a storyline in it, and I kind of just like rolled with it, and then I just put my life with that storyline, and it was like, okay, so I have this cosmic punk rock love story, and that sounds like a great comic. And then Fake Your Death is just like a really depressing. I don't have a log line for it. It's really just about runaways trying to find their place in a world that's like overridden by like brainwashing billionaires. I guess that's a good long line for it. You know what I mean?
There you
And
go.
so like
Yeah,
it's like very down. It's very grounded, but it's also very sci-fi at that same time.
yeah,
And I talk about my distaste for Apple and Amazon, which is all the shit that we have to use because it's our society, unfortunately. But
right,
like, yeah,
right.
so that's like they're very depressing stories too, to a big extent, both of them. There's a lot of like heartache and like, bad things happening. And but then you have to find like your fun stories to like kind of balance that out. And so that's when I came up with the High Adventures of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy, because I wanted my Jay and Silent Bob like story. I wanted that. I wanted to find that.
Yeah.
And so the High Adventures of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy is like seriously like one of my favorite projects, and it's something that makes me laugh so much because I just needed to stop being depressed when I was writing Teenage Babylon and Fake Your Death.
Yeah. And like, so with writing the depressing stories and then flipping that, like, was that therapeutic for you to like get some of the depressive shit out and
Yeah.
then move into like, all right, so we dealt with this down part of the roller coaster. Like, let's go up and have some fun and just be ridiculous. Like, did that reflect back in your regular like day-to-day life too?
I think so because it helped me like it kind of gets you to step away from being in there and that
Mm,
you have to go in certain places when you write stories and think about certain times and people and experiences, and I try to make it as raw as possible too because that's the only way I know how to.
yeah.
So there's a lot of it that seems like just complete fiction, and that's probably all the real stuff, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the most grounded part. um but yeah, like it just really got me out of a slump, and I was especially with the state I was like at that time when I was writing all these stories and really diving into it. Like I just needed something to make me happy. I was in
Mm,
like a very depressed, anxious state, and then I moved across the country, and I was just a ball of anxiety after that point too. And so luckily I was like in a great environment, and like I was with my best friend and everything too when I did move, and so it was really good. But like I needed that balance. If I didn't
mm,
have that balance, I think Teenage Babylon. That's why it took me so long to start writing issue 2 and a full series on it. Like Teenage Babylon, I wrote the 0 issue, and then I wrote issue 1, and I started outlining the whole series. And at that point, I kind of had to stop because I was like talking about things that like still kind of hurt me, and I
mm.
wasn't really worked through yet. And so
Yeah.
like I slowed down, but luckily the artist also slowed down a little bit, Christian, and so like that benefited me like crazy. So luckily I had the art, but the detail in this book, like it's taking a while to come out. It should be out this year, at least issue 1 will be. But it's so insane. Like this is going to be one of the coolest looking books I could possibly say that's out there. It's going to blow people away. If people haven't seen the ash can, the 0 issue yet, like it's like that times 20. Like
That's
it's
awesome.
beautiful. The detail Christian puts in the panels and the expressionism and the cartoon vibes. It's so grounded, but such a comic book at the same time. I can't believe it. And then Fake Your Death is like China Rosemary is such a astonishing artist. Like her work just looks like like every single page could be going up on a wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could be cat
Taking center
tail
stage.
wagging everything. Yes. But then you have the High Adventures of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy, which is a lot of fun because one, it's a stoner story that's just, I mean, it's a dude that turns everything into weed, and then you have a literal bong that skateboards. And so you have them going and facing people like Reggie and his minions, and then Gravactus, who's a like Galactus, but he like uses a gravity bong to smoke planets, and then the Silver Swisher, who's just like a brown Silver Surfer dude, just split with Swisher rolls. So like, is the funnest thing I could possibly conceive. But yeah, and it's crazy because those were like my base stories, and then there was one project I could never get off the ground, the broadcast dialogues, and it was just stuck stagnant forever. But now I have like 7 series in the works, which blows my mind.
That's
Like
insane.
it's everything I've like dreamed of. And see, that's where the balance comes into play too, is like
Yeah.
I'm writing all my dream series and everything I've wanted to write, but then I'm like, I'm really getting into like art and drawing and like expressing myself, and I want to lean more towards into that. But then I'm also running this publishing company and then doing these podcasts, which luckily the podcasting is the YouTube life is kind of switching now,
Mm.
like in big ways from Apollo to CWS to everything. So that's going to be different in the next couple of months from what I've ever done. Um, we're kind of, I mean, we're stopping Spotlights. I think that emo's
Okay.
going out Wednesday, but Spotlights was such a cool show to do. But when you're booking appointments and they're in 30-minute, 40-minute increments, and we just got so many applicants in at a certain time, and keeping up
Yeah.
with that, plus these new initiatives we're trying to do, it just got too much to where the bandwidth was just crashing on top of Spilled Ink and Inspired Ink. And as you know, interviewing is hard sometimes. Like you could have
Yeah,
a cool guest,
it
like
can be
maybe
a
like me,
lot.
like I could talk all day. And so like you could kick back and enjoy it. But then like, there's times where you have to like pull conversations out of people, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Where you're just
Yep.
like, it hurts almost, but
Yeah.
you're trying to be a good host. Like, and that happens. People aren't used to interviewing, and that's what
Right.
we do. We give people the opportunity to step on that stage. Um, but like, yeah, like all these like things are happening. And so it's hard to keep that bandwidth straight to know what to do next. Cause then new opportunities pop up. Like now in March, we have 3 Kickstarters running in March. We have Family Man with Max Flowers and Nate Price, who we're backing and supporting because we're publishing it, and then Eric Allred, who actually just said hi right now. Well, we're doing a week-long Kickstarter as we go into IC3, but we're also filming a documentary that same week. And
Shit.
then yeah, and then we're like doing a store appearance, which is really exciting here at Four Color. I'll go into detail about all this right now too, but there's that Kickstarter, and then we're doing Hyperforce #2 at the end of March as well. So we'll have like 3 books hit it, but the Kickstarter that's going on for a week is going to have 2 books in it. So
That's
insane.
dude,
We just
so
put together
much.
2 anthologies. Yeah, it's really wild.
Like, how do
Yeah,
you find like I have an idea, but like how do you find the things that you need to prioritize so that they don't eat up all of the bandwidth and that you're focusing on the things that will eventually carry you to the goals that you have? Like, how do you balance all of those plates?
um I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. It's insane. I kind of just take it piece by piece. You know what I mean? Like you can only respond to so many messages at a certain time, and then
Yeah.
there too. Like my inboxes are just so stacked on social media that it literally takes me weeks to get back to people sometimes. And I try to explain myself like it's a lot. It's a lot to balance, but it's like what needs to get done right now, and what's the most active, moving thing. Like the reason why we got to do 2 anthologies and got to prep for this documentary and prep for this Kickstarter is because I have a kick-ass team backing me right now. Like it's not all me doing this solo, which is really why everything started to skyrocket. People like Alex Batts and Max Flowers and Eric Allred and Javi Martinez and Ben Collins. Like a lot of us meet like every Wednesday night to just like just shoot the shit and just talk for one.
Yeah.
Be friends and buddies. We're all in different states and time zones, but also this is where a lot of like the brainstorming for Apollo is happening now.
Mm.
And so Eric Allred, and because Ben and Eric write Outer Space, the book, and then another book, Too High to Die, that we're putting out this year as well, which is super exciting. But it just comes from having a great team. These guys make it so much fun and easy, and they make it so flawless. Like there's things I can't always get to, like website edits or like full on just focused editing sometimes, or just putting together these trailers. Like all this stuff comes into play because everyone's doing a piece of it. And so now we just meet and we just kind of like I kind of just spearhead these meetings in a way. And I'm like, so this is the idea. Let's brainstorm this idea. How are we going to do it? How are we going to execute it? Who's doing what? Who can help with what? Who has time? And then we start to figure out that timeline and move forward with it. And these Wednesday meetings is really where we just knock out so much stuff,
Yeah.
But like I need to get in a better, like the business aspect of Apollo and what we do, and like how it's like we have hats now. Like that's super cool. Like I've been trying to get merch for years, and now we have hats. It's on the website, ApolloCityComics.com. So check stuff like that out. And that's all because Javi Martinez found a good supplier of hats and set it up on our website and made all that happen. Like the anthologies that we do, like I did the punk anthology, and that was wild and it was kind of crazy and it was a mess, but that like launched everything really well. And so I got to help Alex with Cybersync, and then me and Alex got to help Hot Kai with the Shadow anthology. And after that, like I got to help Jade Louder with the Found Footage Anthology. And so like you kind of take everything you learn and you pass it along. I'm not hiding any secrets. Like even people just come to me and be like, hey, how do you do this? Like, what was your process? What's your mindset? And I'll just put time aside and say, this is what we did and what we learned. This is what you don't want to do probably. So I want you to avoid these issues. We've had every issue you could think of, from like people almost like we had contracts made and people want to take legal action on stuff. Like we've had like random stuff like drama between creators to like, oh, we're negative in this Kickstarter. How did that happen? Or, you know,
Mm,
now we have 100 extra copies that we didn't mean to order. Like that didn't work out the way you planned. Things like that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
exclusives, tiers, all sorts of stuff. You just kind of just if when you have people that are motivated to work really hard and to like have that same passion and to like, you know, lead and follow with you,
Yeah.
then that's how all of this wait, this happens around me.
Yeah. So speaking of anthologies and Jade and the found footage anthology, like tell me about that. Like I saw it and you're one of the like Apollo City, if you're putting something out, I'm gonna back it. But then I saw the names that are involved in this anthology. And I was like, holy shit. Like I okay, like this is a stacked roster that you've got on this anthology. Like, how did this all was that Jade that was like contacting people? How did this come to be?
So we have like a formula to do anthologies now. We've done 6 of them now in total. 7, maybe 6 or 7. I might be counting wrong. Eric can correct me in the comments. Because 2 of them aren't released yet. Yeah, because those are
Okay.
about to come out. We're working like they're pretty much done, but we're working on them right now. For that 1 week Kickstarter. And so like when we did the Punk Anthology and Outcome the Comics and Cybersync and Shadow Anthology, and it's a horror show. We what we do is we find a good theme, like kind of like the point of what we're doing. Like what are people going to follow to get them inspired to make a story? Like we have huge conversations and back and forth about working out like what is even being said to like push forward with an anthology. And I learned that was my first lesson on doing an anthology. Like I should have been more specific with the Punk Anthology because I got everything in the world submitted to me, and that's what you want to do. You want to narrow your focus, and that's probably why we had like 80 plus submissions on the Punk Anthology. It's only 16 stories we narrowed it down to, but we're probably going to make a volume 2 out of it this year as well because we had so much.
Nice.
And so you find a great theme and you get all these submissions in, and you open submissions for like 3 months because in my head of like making comics, like 3 months to like, you know, you do a month of announcements saying this is going to happen. And then you open up submissions for 3 months. So it's 4 months. These creators get to think of stories and work on stuff. Oh my gosh, Booby. Now he's getting too excited for my hand. Uh, dude, stop swiping at me. But so you open up submissions. That's what we did. We opened submissions like last April. And you had all these people submit. We had like 40 or 50 submissions for this one, the horror anthology, and we weren't specific on the theme for a reason, and that was concealed until later
Mm,
because of the nature of this book. Typically, we do the theme, and that narrows things down because then you can look at stuff like, oh, this doesn't meet the theme, it's out. It doesn't meet the
yeah.
page count, it's out. Like you put these guidelines to kind of help your filtration process because people who follow the guidelines and hit those marks have like a way higher chance of making it in the book in general.
Yeah.
And so we figured all this out, and Jade had this great idea for like, I want to do a horror anthology comic since he does It's a Horror Show, which is, you know, his band of books and his brand that he's been building for a couple years now, with The Date, The Breakup, Early Bird, all these cool awesome horror, you know, campy stories that are pretty punk rock at the same time.
Yeah.
And so he came to me and he was like, you know, you've done the anthology thing a few times, like, do you want to work on one together and we could try to see, you know, I need help and guidance. And it first started more of just like guidance and support, like, oh, this is how you do it, this is what you want to consider,
Mm.
to like me being a full-on like editor on the book basically and helping piecing stuff together. So dude, what is with you? Oh my gosh, Booby, he just snagged my band-aid. Oh my gosh, that was like a good call. That could have been like blood on screen in public.
Haven't had that yet on the show. That could be
Yeah, I
real
know,
fun,
right? Yeah, it's cats when cats attack, dude. But so we worked out this concept of being like, okay, so we want to do open-ended horror stories because we wanted to get anything and everything for this one. We didn't want to make
Mm,
that process narrow because Jade is such a big fan of found footage stuff, like, you know, VHS and Trick or Treat and Creep Show, and I love Creep Show. Like that was one of my entry like horror, you know, movies was that's, you know, that movie.
okay.
Um And so I was like super hyped to like, you know what, a horror anthology would do really good. And we don't have that yet. I haven't done a horror book. So we opened submissions, we went through them all, and we put on this found footage format. So he's gonna be writing in between stories with his characters from It's a Horror Show, the werewolf and
Nice.
everyone.
Yeah.
Kind of like going into comic book shop and then opening these comics and reading all these insane stories. And it's cool because these anthologies, like, we're publishing people for the first time, we're giving people opportunities that never had opportunities before. We have a lot of friends that like have, we've worked with in the past or we're close with, that submit stories that are top tier. And I've even had to reject friends. Like, it's not like just because I know you're going to get in. It's more of like, does it meet what we're trying to do and does it work? And this one got so competitive because we had to like go down to the nitty gritty. Sometimes you can let a beautiful story with like okay writing go by, or even vice versa. Like, the writing is like really great, but the art's, it's indie, it's working, it's growing, but it works for the book. Let's put it in. This one got so like, we had such good, submissions that we were like, man, we got to cut this one out because actually it just doesn't stand to the same like tier as all these other stories. And so that's where it gets heartbreaking and you're having to deliver news and whatnot. And so we do this over Zoom and we meet like, it goes from like a monthly meet to like a bi-weekly week to a weekly meet and to like the crunch time of launching the crowdfunding. But yeah, it's just super cool. It's just a love of horror. And I did this cool Teenage Babylon side story. I've been using these anthologies to kind of grow my universes and talk about these characters and in between scenes. So like, figuring out how to utilize something that you're doing and incorporating your own story to kind of promote itself and get that name in people's heads. It's kind of what I've been doing in anthologies in general. It's like, I'm doing it to grow myself along with being with a whole bunch of other people. That way it gets seen a whole lot more. And then you're almost guaranteed success because when you have 20 something people promoting a book, you've got to hit that goal at that point.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you're a one-man show that did the writing, the artwork, the lettering. You had somebody maybe do as an editor, but like, it's on you to do the whole shebang. When you've got the anthology, you're right. Like, I've never thought of it from that perspective before, of like, you suddenly now have 20 people who this book matters to them because they have a piece in it. And like, that's an incredibly good and helpful like insight into anthologies too. Because I never would have, like, I read anthologies and I like them because I get to experience a bunch of different flavors of writing and of comics. And then I usually will like have my favorite 2 or 3 stories that I'll look up and see like, okay, is this, expanding a universe? Is this like just a one-off thing that this person did? Like, is there more out there? How do and then that usually gets my wallet in trouble because then I'm a complete it. Like, I want to read more of the stuff that I like. So, horror and punk rock comics usually get all of my money. And so that's like, I immediately was just like, dude, I love found footage. Like, that subgenre of horror is one of my favorites to play with because when it's done really well. Have you watched Cloverfield, like the original?
Oh yeah. Dude, so good.
Dude, I love that movie because like, it feels, I've been at that party where then suddenly something happens and everyone's like, oh God, how do we react? Like, how do we move forward from this thing? And in Cloverfield, it's just a giant alien monster, but like, I love Cloverfield. And I like, that's the movie for me that made me fall in love with found footage. And then suddenly I realized like, oh, this is a whole thing. And so now every year I make it a point to watch at least 2 new found footage movies. And thankfully there's a ton of horror people out there that are like, here's the top 77 million horror movies with a subsection by genre. And here's your 25 found footage movies. I'm like, thank you. Oh, I haven't seen that one. I don't even know what that one is. So I love that. And I feel like anthologies do that for comic readers, where then suddenly we get to experience horror or whatever the subgenre is, or the focus is for that anthology, from people that we might not ever hear of on our own. So like, from an exposure point, it's super great for a reader because I'm like, oh, I'm now introduced to a bunch of different creators that I can follow and support on social media and interact with and do all the stuff. So I I think it's great, personally. So highly looking forward to it. I didn't do the best that I could have. I didn't check where the Kickstarter is right now.
Oh, we're
Um,
like super close. We hit goal this week, which is super exciting. So we're
Nice.
trying. We have some stretch goals we're talking about in the background. Once we hit a certain backer amount, like count, we're gonna do something special, and then once again, and so we're hoping to get like a little over 100 backers. So we have some things
Cool.
we're in discussions about, but we're last I checked, we're at 49. We're about to hit 50.
Yep.
So it's really exciting. I would love to hit like 100 plus backers on this because that would break some records for us.
Nice.
Um, but I mean, that's the thing about anthology. It's like it's a trip because you have your community that you get support from, and you expand your community every time you do it because you
Yeah.
now have outsiders that weren't part of it. And sometimes that pays off really well because as much as it benefits Apollo getting its name out there and us publishing some people for the first time, what it's done is it's networked people because I always start these group chats on Instagram where everyone talks and hangs out and like shares their work, and we brainstorm promotion ideas and ask advice and whatnot. It's a very community based thing. Every anthology we've done, but people end up meeting and starting projects together. I
That's
mean,
cool.
Kai Brown and Hannah Williamson started a project. It's probably nothing that actually has a story in this anthology because now it's a full series that we're doing with Apollo that should be kickstarted in May, and it's this awesome. Dude, Kai Brown just does astonishing stuff. She's launching Soul Catchers with us this year. That's going to have 5 different artists because it's 5 different issues, and that's going to be
Cool.
a full trade and the first single issue. And then it's probably nothing with Hannah Williamson that you see the snippet of here is going to be a 6-issue series. It's this really cool like true crime story that just like
Okay.
it's really gripping. It's really interesting, and Hannah's art is like so it's so interesting because you wouldn't expect it out of a horror comic. Like it doesn't fit horror comic vibes, and because of that, it makes it that much more eerie. Like
Yeah.
everything about it is a bit creepier because it's not an artist I would have ever thought of for like a murder type of story.
That's awesome.
Like the cover of it is like the main character is doing like it looks like she's fixing a tape recorder, but it's actually the tape recorder is all like has like guts inside of it. So she's
Oh,
like looks like she's
cool.
pulling guts and it's a tape recorder and it's really creepy. It was the wildest idea she's ever had, I think. It was just so rad. But that's what the great thing about anthologies, like it
Mhm.
builds a base for things. And the only reason why I did an anthology first was I was trying to launch Teenage Babylon and I was trying to get that story off the ground. I kind of had an artist at the time I thought it was going to work out with, which it didn't, which was cool. But it like I Mark Bernal told me, why don't you do an anthology to build a punk rock base so that when you launch your punk rock comic, you already have someone with that fan base under there. And
Mm.
so I was like, oh, okay, I'll do this punk anthology that's punk themed. There we go. And then I launched my punk comic, which I launched the punk anthology and then everything changed and none of those plans happened. But in a good way, in a very good way. Things got way bigger and moved way faster than I would have ever thought. Especially because we launched that book and then we hit goal in an hour. Our goal was $1,000 and we hit it in less than an
That's
hour. And then we
crazy.
like did 500% above our goal. And then Comics Wellspring, I wasn't even associated with them yet, but I said, I'm going to San Diego Comic Con because I have a friend there. If we work some stuff out, I'll do some promotional stuff for you guys. And then they love the book so much. The Jade Louder cover that I have, it's actually great. There, you can't really see it. But we'll post it. But they gave me this exclusive like foil sponsored CWS version, and that's where my
That's
relationship with
awesome.
CWS actually started. Was that they sponsored that was their first sponsorship for a book, and it was my book, and it just tripped me out. It was my first book. Everything just kind of aligned with the punk anthology, and it kind of like is why everything else has happened after that. I just like we hit it out of the park the first time, and we just didn't stop really. And the
I mean,
collaborations, doing 3 anthologies back to back, I think just grew us way
yeah.
more than we imagined past that.
Do you think part of that, first, that's because punk is the best. But like, do you think part of everything just happening so quickly was because working with the anthologies, you were getting all of that exposure with all of the people you were working with? Like, was that part of it, or was it just like learning so quickly because you were drinking from the fire hose? of just like, we're doing the thing and we're going to move forward and we're going to go?
It's a weird blend of things. That's a big part of it. That's a big chunk of the pie for sure. Was just anthologies in general grew us because we had 20 something creators. So you do that times three. We're somewhere in the 80s to close to 100 people you're talking to within less than of a year time span. Because we started the punk anthology. We launched in 2022, and then the book, or we started the process of it in 2022, the second half of the year, and then it launched in May of 2023, and then we launched CyberSync, the Kickstarter, in like November, October of 2023, and then Shadow Anthology January of 2024. So there was like a really quick time span of me just meeting people who needed advice on a Kickstarter / anthology,
Yeah.
and then we just ended up working together. Apollo like got part of the project. You got swept it with us. But at the same time, like when I was doing my first ideas and doing the punk anthology submissions, that's when I went to Baltimore Comic-Con one year with Mark Bernal. And it was such a crazy time because like I had just moved across the country in 2022 in April. And then in like September or something, I got fired from my job. I was working for a marketing company, this like really family cult like marketing company. It was terrible. It was good I got fired, but like I lost my job and I was like super depressed, and I was like already moving was like the reason I moved was like shitty, and then like all that stuff, and then adjusting and figuring out people and like where are my friends. I'm so glad my best friend Eric took care of me during that time. But like I lost my job and I was super depressed at that point. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like this is all insane. And then I went to Baltimore Comic-Con because Mark was like, dude, just come with me, just have fun. Like you don't got a job anyways, just fucking come. And I was like, all right, fine. Fucking, I don't, that depression guilt. You're like, no, I can't. You can do it. Just listen to your friends. Because that's where I met Dan Hills, who was, working for CWS. And we had some conversations about like community, and we talked about like what I was doing with Apollo and how at that point we were really just primarily interviewing indie artists. I wasn't chasing Tom King and Ryan Stegman and all these people. I was like, I just want to interview indie people because if they're making comics, I need to talk to the indie people so I can figure out how to make comics. Like I'm not going to learn anything from Donny Cates and Tom King because they were nepo babies. You know what I mean? Like Tom King's mom worked for DC Warner Brothers. Donny Cates was an intern at Marvel. Like they had ins with people. You know what I mean? And maybe a nepo baby. Well, Tom King's a nepo baby. But I'm a big Tom King fan. I can say shit about him. I love Tom King. I have all his art covers, so I will talk my shit. I love his Batman run as well. But you figure you want to talk to indie people to know how to make indie comics. Like I'm not writing for Marvel or DC or for other publishers. And so Dan liked this idea, and he was like, what would you think about starting a podcast for Comics Wellspring? And so Dan and I worked on ideas for a while, and that's where we came up with Inspired Inc. And Inspired Inc. was just it kicked off like, so the punk anthology launched in March. Inspired Inc. the first episode launched in like November, so that means I'd been recording since like 2 months before that to build up episodes because we were doing two releases a week at that point. So I had to have a bulk leading into it and then start doing it. So you launch a Kickstarter, you're putting out books, you're interviewing people, and I'm contract with CWS, and then 2024 happens. And then Hyperforce 2, we bring on our first like series creator. Hyperforce was our first like standalone series, and such a great book. Adam Matthew Smith is such a great creator and self-promoter and knows how to do things on his own. He's in Florida where it's like rough trying to figure out how to network and do things, and like he kills it. Like that dude is on it. Hyperforce 2 is, we have Jay Red who did the variant cover on this, and now the poster. He's doing the art for it now, so that's going to launch at the end of March. But it was just that spiral. Like you had a good Kickstarter, I was talking to people, and then I became full-time with CWS this year last year 2024 in April. Like I literally moved into my new apartment and started that job the same week. It was insane.
Crazy.
But yeah, and that's where all that I think just happened. I think that's why it just always seems like I'm doing, well, I guess I am doing a lot, but it really seems like I'm doing a lot because I'm just so integrated with CWS and trying to promote indie creators on top of trying to do my own comics in that sense.
Yeah, it is a lot, but like, and I've tried to explain it to my wife because uh, she's not a huge, like, she will go see the Captain America movie, right? But she wouldn't go to a comic shop and pick up the Captain America comic. And then she started dating me, and I was like, yeah, but comics are rad. And she was like, yeah, I mean, I like the movies. And so, but I have gotten to a point where if I'm going to go on vacation, I'm not going to eat at a chain restaurant. I'm going to eat at like a mom and pop shop because that supports them more. So why wouldn't I do the same thing with everything? Like,
Yeah.
and that's just always kind of been our cadence. Like, we go on vacation and we look up small eateries when we can, because you can't always do that. And then, we always try and do that. And then we try and shop local here in town. And I was like, well, why aren't I doing this more with comics? And I don't even remember like how I ever even got into Kickstarter. I think it was honestly in college. Like, one of my professors was kickstarting, like, making a movie, and he was like, yeah, I just, like, we're just trying to raise the funds to cover the production cost. And so that was my first exposure to it. And then I learned about it from a guy at a convention, like, yeah, I'm going to have a book on Kickstarter later. And I was just like, I don't even know what that is, man. And so I got on it to follow that one creator's book. And then that just spiraled. And now here I am. And she's like, how many packages are you getting today? Not enough.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, dude, it's such a hard thing to like have other people like understand and accept too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
doing this, especially when you're like podcasting and like doing comics, like especially when I started like dating again, like that was so rough. Like, girls did not
Yeah,
get,
dude.
and all between that, like how much you're getting in the mail and like unwrapping and just owning. I fucking was buying action figures like crazy too. I love action figures. Like, I'm such a kid when it comes to that stuff. And it's doing that plus the workload of like making comics and podcasting is so much, because like you literally need that time to like, I need to write right now, I need to
Mhm.
draw, or I need to, I have to do a show tonight and blah blah blah, or I'm doing episodes and all this. And like, there was a period of just like dating for a little bit where girls just did not get like, I'm sorry, I can't do that, I got to do this because I know I don't get paid for it, but it's like
Yeah.
what I got to do
Yeah.
this,
But like,
um
this is something I need to be doing. Yeah.
yeah. And so like having someone like a spouse that's supportive and like, understands what you're doing and does enjoy it, like that's why, my girlfriend and I work out so well together, because like she gets why I have to do this stuff, and I've never had an issue of like I have an episode or I gotta just focus on the script, or I'm always drawing like downstairs during our hangout times. Like, we're gonna watch TV at the end of the night, it's our wind down, and she gets,
Yeah.
I need to work on this to get better. So it's like, oh well, let's watch TV together still, but I just got to draw while I do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's it. We'll still smoke, we'll still hang out, it'll still be great. It's got to be at the drawing board, and that's what you kind of need, is that balance of like figuring out how to integrate this into your day to day. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I've done with all of this, is I figured out how to integrate it to where that's all I do is like comics. I love video games. I miss video games. I could play them every so while. You know what I mean? I've bought
Yeah.
video games that I just have not. Like, I regret spending that money now because I really didn't get to play them.
Yeah.
And I should just waited them on sale. Now I just
Yeah.
buy games when they're like $10, like 2 years later.
Yeah.
That's
Just
because
wait.
by the time I actually play with it, yeah, just wait. Black Friday sale is going to kill it.
Yep.
But yeah, just finding that stuff. I mean, I think that's why Lex and I are now working on a series together, because like she got to see what it was like and the experience, and then going to Baltimore Comic Con with me and seeing the people and SPX, and she's going to be she's going to be running the Apollo table at IC3 this year in March,
Awesome.
which is going to be super exciting. She's promoting her series we're working on together, Corpse Flower, which is one of the 7. I guess I do have 7 series. I have Teenage Babylon. I have Fake Your Death, The High Adventures of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy, the Broadcast Dialogues, which issue 0 technically, I guess, is out now on the Apollo website. I'm actually going to start writing that series full force in the next couple weeks, and that's
Nice.
with Jeremy John Hansen and Bob Little. And then Jeremy John Hansen and I actually just started a new project this week, which is like a one that's really close to my heart, but it was like the project I never knew I needed to make. But we're going to
Mm.
do a bootleg comic with Gene Simmons and Spawn and it's called the Daemons, because when you put an A in demons, a
Yeah,
daemon is a good or evil spirit. You know, it could go both ways. So the Daemons, it's because they're kind of good but evil. And they're going to be fighting other demons across like their fucking adventures and shit, and
that's
then
awesome.
doing day-to-day shit. Yeah, so they're gonna like fight each other and then fight Etrigan the demon, and fight maybe Bob from Twin Peaks or something. I don't know. We're just planning all this out. I'm super hyped for it because I just want to draw Spawn and Gene Simmons all day. So I think I'm gonna be doing backup stories for that. And then we have Apollo Prime, which used to be called Anxiety Boy and the Adventures of Existential Crisis or something like that. It's a very long title, but now it's Apollo Prime, and that's with Tanner Ogle, and we're doing like weekly serialized kind of like quick adventures, monthly like one pagers.
That's
And then Corpse
nuts,
Tower.
dude.
Yeah.
God, that's so, like, you're the master tasker. I love, like, that's your new
I'm so behind,
title.
dude. I can't even say that. Like, I'm so behind. I need discipline. I need to like sit down and do some of this stuff.
Yeah,
I've because then I help these guys. Like I'm helping Adam with his Kickstarter. I try to give reviews on everybody's Kickstarters for Apollo,
yeah,
and make sure they're set up for success. And I even do that. I offer that to other creators too. Like anybody who needs help, like or advice on like should I tier ideas? How do I make stuff stand out? Like
yeah,
how do I make a Kickstarter that's like kind of appealing? Like I'll give feedback on stuff like that. And then I'll suggest like what you can do, like this foil variant that we're doing for the horror anthology, the Cosmic Death foil. It's one of those things where you put it on your Kickstarter and it's priced pretty high. It's $50 and the book is $30. The overhead you get on that is so much. The profit you're going to make is so high. It's going to be worth having that, because even if you just do a small run of like 50, because that's where you're going to get a discount is 50 books. Like you do that for your foil, and that way you have a special book to like sell at your cons throughout the years. Like people think that their Kickstarters are like end goal, and this is just what it is. This is Kickstarter. I've made my goal, make it or break it.
yeah,
But like, no, think about your comics for the rest of the year. Like think about your events, think about selling to stores. Like when you order your books, I'm telling creators, like just don't think of the present, like think of the future, because you get this discount now. Like how do you maximize it to get the biggest discount?
yep,
But also like make sure you're just prepared, because I've been in that position now where I'm out of cybersync. Like it sucks. It's the worst thing in the world. Like having to reprint. I should have printed more when I had the bigger discount, because now it's hard
yeah,
for me to reprint it. Like the Punk anthology is going through its first reprinting, I think. But that's because I ordered so many and it benefited me. But also I gave that book away for free for a while, just trying to get my name out there. So like, just helping creators like plan this stuff out with Kickstarters is so beneficial. Like,
yeah,
cool, it gives Comics Spring some, some sales and some business, but it's really so that you can like have a good year and like have success as an indie creator and treat your comic books, making factory that you own in your house like a true business. And that's what
yeah.
it really is. Not that I know anything really about business, and I will tell you that right now, but I have a pretty good idea of how to like do okay.
Yeah, I mean,
What we
you've
do here.
lived it though too. Like you've got more hands-on experience living through running Apollo than like I don't have any. The closest thing I have is like running podcast or radio shows that I've done. Like everything else, I'm just working for the man, which sucks, and I'm trying to
Nice.
not do anymore. So unashamedly, because I don't have any shame. If you're looking to add a punk to your staff, just let me know. But like you've got that experience of you have that foresight of, well, no, you've got the discount now, so even though you might not be selling those right now, you're going to be at a convention, or you're going to
Mhm.
like, how many comic shops do you have in your town? Go to every single one of them. Do they know who you are? Like you
5 copies to each one. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
goal set for your conventions. You want to sell 10 books a con, just guesstimating. I don't know. But like, giving yourself those goals and like aspirations is going to balance out. And then that means like, going back to like that foil variant is that like, even if you have a rough week or weekend and you sell one of those books, dude, that means you sold like 2 or 3 of your other books just by that one. You know what I mean? You want to
yeah,
have that high price item because it's shiny and it's cool. And like the collectors that are not always at cons are going to want them later, or who aren't on social media are going to want them when they see them. Like, or, your comic book shop is going to want that. Like like it seems expensive and it seems like kind of a shock, but like there's so many other ways to think about it to be like, how do I maximize this to its biggest thing? And
Yeah.
again, I think I learned all this from Tom DeLonge too. I swear to God, like all my business practices, like
I mean, the man knows what he's
uh,
doing. He has successfully ran how many bands, like started a company to the stars, like the
yeah,
comics, and he's got pops that are based on his characters. It's the man knows what he's doing.
amazing. Yeah,
So
you know what I mean?
we could do a whole
And
episode just on why Tom DeLonge is the best.
oh, we could do another. We should follow up and do that. So I could talk about
Mhm.
Tom for an hour or two.
For sure, easily. So, okay, so you've got all of the things and all of the stuff. How do people keep up or try to keep up with all of the things that you're doing?
um, Dude, that's the hard part. That's like, and I think that's the biggest blurred line with me in my life, especially now. And like you said, I got all this experience, but all this experience happened so quickly in a short amount of time. So it's
Mhm.
weird. One, validating myself on my knowledge, but also like, how do I keep everyone like excited for the next project? And how do I make every project better than the last project we did? Like, I
Yeah.
always want to be leveling up everything we do. But I think I'm going to be starting a newsletter. I'm starting a Substack finally, and I think that's going to be super cool. That's going to benefit a lot. One, for my writing discipline. That's really why I'm doing it. And the only reason why I haven't started it is because I don't have writing discipline yet. So once I get my writing discipline under control, there's going to be a
Yep.
newsletter where you're going to see like updates on everything. Where I'm going to be giving you snippets of art, where you can see upcoming projects, like everything I just named. Like I get updates every week from these artists, and it's super cool. There's always gonna be pack stuff. I want to give insight on like making comics because I've produced over like 20 comics now. When it
Mm.
comes down to it, and you look at everything what we've published or have in the works that's about to be published, I've produced about 20 books, so I kind of know how to handle different types of things. But right now, sadly, it's just the Instagram, and I'm really trying to like figure out how to break away from Instagram complete. And you can't do it completely. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, breaking away from Meta is like, I don't want to support Apple, but like I fucking use a Mac and my iPhone, and it copying something from my phone to my computer is seamless. Like
Dude,
how can I right?
that's the best damn feature of
I know,
anything
seriously.
Apple has ever done.
Yes. It's the most innovative thing they've done, and that's the only reason why I can't quit it. Is I just need that copy paste feature. Like it's really hard to like change that thing that we were once excited for that worked out and it seemed good at first, and now it's just
Yeah.
it's all so evil, dude. So I'm trying to get like on Blue Sky, but that's dude learning another social network on top of everything else I do is just very low on my priority list, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Yeah. I see, and I went through that last year with the show because I was like, okay, so I've already got my established, like I was on Twitter for 16 years or something insane, and then I was like, I'm not supporting AI, and like it had nothing to do with politics. I was like, you're not going to use my brain for your AI machine, so
mhm.
buy Twitter, and that like I grieved closing that because I had just
It's
found
hard.
the network, right? Like I just finally found like, oh, I'm having conversations with people. I open Twitter and I actually have comments and replies and all of these things. And I was like, God, I don't want to do like Blue Sky and Mastodon and whatever the hell
Oh,
threads.
is
And
Mastodon still a thing? I
I
forgot
have
about
no
that one.
idea. I never joined because I was like, I can't.
Yeah,
I just
same.
like, no, I have to draw a line.
I felt like it wasn't gonna work, and I'm a big like Mastodon fan, like the band. Like they're one of my favorite bands in the
Yeah.
universe. Like I'm seeing Mastodon and Coheed in like May. I'm so
Oh,
fucking hyped, dude.
dude.
So
Coheed
excited.
puts on
Um,
such a good show. Such a good show.
Dude, I've seen Coheed more than any other band, it turns out, and I've seen
Really?
them once a year. I think since 2011.
No
Out of just
way.
like it's just worked out, or like I remember I saw him for the first time in my hometown because they did a tour, and then I saw him on an Afterman tour where Between the Buried and Me opened up for them, which was insane.
That's
And then I saw
awesome.
them on a Neverender tour for also Coheed has also inspired the hell out of Apollo City Comics. If you didn't get the Coheed reference, but good Apollo, I'm a Burning Star 4.
Yep.
Um, I mean, also like I named Apollo. Quick Apollo history. I named Apollo because I wanted something kind of like local for El Paso, Texas, where I lived. And I'm like, oh, like we're the Sun City. We're known for that. And I was like, I don't want to be called Sun City Comics or something. And then I was like, oh, but if I call it Apollo, it's also referencing Coheed, and Coheed's my favorite band. And I was like, oh, Apollo City Comics, like. And I wanted the city because I wanted like a Jack Kirby esque vibe. When you look at the original logo I drew, it was like my first drawing fucking ever. I got an iPad and I was like, I'm just gonna learn how to do this, and I just did that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Coheed stuff. But yeah, I've seen Coheed almost every year. The one year I didn't see them, I actually saw Prize Fighter Inferno on their very first concert last February, and that was me and my girlfriend's Valentine's Day concert. So we saw them, and that was the first show ever. Was in DC.
Dude, I would like Prize Fighter is on my short list of bands to see that I've just
So
never
cool.
had a chance to.
The
like
comics are great, like all of it, like
all of it, everything, right? Like, and I'm still, that's another Kickstarter that I'm waiting for, is that like Coheed.
yeah,
I think I did
yeah.
the full like hardback whatever.
Have you read all the comics? Have you?
I haven't yet. No, and I didn't even find out about the comics until like the first time I saw. So I saw him. I saw Coheed before I was ready to see Coheed. I was in high school and I was at the Warped Tour, and
same. Yes, I saw that. I saw that too. Yes,
and
I
I
remember
saw
that
them,
tour. Yeah,
and like I only knew the one song, and I bought the CD,
Welcome
and I was
home.
like, yeah, and I was like, but this one song is really so like I want to see him, you know. And then I, like an idiot, wasn't ready to have the back like rush and just smash against the stage. And I got caught in the smash and I had a panic attack and I was like, I can't move. Like I was,
Coheed, it's so scary, dude. Like,
yeah, I was with
so
my girlfriend and basically like her little brother. And so I was worried about them getting crushed. And like I had all these people just pressing on me and I lost my shit. And I was just like, I gotta get out of here. And started swinging. I elbowed some chick in the boob and I was just like, I gotta go. And I like literally passed out on the ground, just like shaking because it was so awful. And like, of course, they're not starting out like, hey, we're Coheed. Hi. It's just like,
no, I was like gonna say, I was Claudia, like, what? Looking in the background while you're freaking out. And you're just like, wow, come on.
Yeah, so that was like,
so
that's a foundational memory. But then when I saw him as an adult, they had his books and I should have bought them because I was like, I didn't know Coheed. I didn't know like Claudio did all this stuff. And then I started looking at it after the show and I was like, holy shit, I should have bought those books. Like, this is so crazy. He makes comics that are concept albums that like match the comics that he's telling and the comics expand those stories. Like, I'm all in on this.
Chris Burnham did the art for the second volume, and then like Peter David helped write some of the comics with him and the book Year of the Black Rainbow. Which shout out to Four Color Fantasies and Eric. They're my local comic book shop. I was actually gifted the book of Year of the Black Rainbow by my comic book shop owner, and I like wanted to cry, dude. I didn't think I'd ever own that book ever, and it was just like the greatest like thing in the universe. So yeah, Four Color Fantasies here in Winchester. We're actually doing a signing, an event there with me, Javi Martinez, and Kai Brown on March 11th, 12th. March 12th,
right
on a Wednesday, right before IC3. We're filming. That's when that week is when we're kickstarting the Kickstarter and the documentary that we're doing. Because like I remember I was watching the Urethra Chronicles with my girlfriend. I was trying to show her the Blink DVDs. We were watching Faster, Harder, Harder, Faster. Yeah. And I was like, the intro, I was watching it and I was like, man, I would love to do like an Apollo trailer like this. And I was like, what if Apollo just did like a whole documentary? And so we decided to like Sunday, we're going to start the documentary because we're going to be getting ready because we're all traveling that week. Me, Eric Allred, Ben Collins, Javi Martinez, everyone who's going to IC3. You go to the IC3 website and see the Apollo section there. But I do an interview on Indie Comic Relay Monday night. And then Tuesday, we launch the Kickstarter. And that's when Javi gets in town. Wednesday, we do the event at Four Color with me, Javi, and Kai Brown. Thursday, we're going to go to DC and hand out flyers for this Comic Kills Fascists and our Kickstarter. And then Friday, we're going to drive up to New Haven to meet up with all the IC3 people because there's a big drink and draw the first night. IC3 is Saturday, so we're going to be doing CWS Apollo stuff all that day. Sunday, we all drive home basically. And then Monday is like the last day I see everybody. So just filming a week of that and like talking about Kickstarters and talking about indie convention and interviewing people and like talking to Cosmic Lion and, the people that run, CAF, comic art fans, and, Matt Sardo of IC3, just getting all of them involved. Like, it's going to be a really cool indie comics documentary that we're literally just going to film like with on-hand equipment, and then we're going to edit it. We'll probably do a Kickstarter to help the production aspect of it, the last little bits of it. And then, we'll have a indie comic punk rock documentary potentially in like a year. Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick. That's so,
really
that's
hyped.
so rad.
And that Kickstarter we're doing, it's a dual anthology Kickstarter. It's one book. It's called Kick Out the Jams, Motherfucker, which is an MC5 reference I was really hyped about. Everyone had these music stories that kind of like got lost because there was only one printing of the anthology they were in. And so I was like, let's take these stories and we have some new ones. Like there's a new Fake Your Death story in there that me and China put together, and some other stuff. And so we have Kick Out the Jams, Motherfucker, and a stoner anthology. So it's going to be a music and weed anthology in this Kickstarter. And so we're going to just do that for a week. We've actually already printed Kick Out the Jams, Motherfucker, but we're putting together the weed anthology right now. And that's going to be all big bundled. So we'll have another 2 books to put out in March.
Yeah, just add it to the list, man. Let's see. You don't
but
have
that's
enough
because like we just had a great team of doing these anthologies. Like we were really upset about the election, so we did This Comic Kills Fascists, and so we put that together, and it was so smooth. And Javi and Eric and I had just been meeting every Wednesday in general, and then we put together this music anthology, and then the stoner anthology just came into play because we're doing like at IC3 we're gonna have like stickers where you have to get like an apple and like a lighter and some cash and like something else, and then you have to go to the Apollo table, and then you give these items to me, and then we're going to give you a little like nug and like a little preview of the stoner anthology, like a digital preview of it. And so you have to like, you're going to give us like the cash, and then you're going to have like the apple and everything to like, it's going to be so
fantastic.
Great. It's like a scavenger hunt, so you can read. You can't smoke stoner comics, but you can read stoner comics.
Right. When speaking of This Comic Kills Fascists, when does that like come out? Or is
that is available, that you could go and head to our website and you could purchase a digital or physical copy. It is getting printed right now, so books will be shipping probably for orders that have already come through. Those will be shipping late February, early March, and then I know I saw that you put in an order. Yours is probably going to go out late March because I just put a reprint in of the punk anthology, which you ordered too. And so I'm definitely going to, once those both are there, I'm going to give you a nice little package to send up there.
Sweet. Yeah, because I like as soon as when I did the Shadow anthology, there we can see it.
Okay.
I've got I was like, you know what? I want to fill the cover, the front of my jacket with like comic and fun, nerdy stuff. And then I got the little Apollo City patch, and I was like, dude, this fits perfectly in this little hole on my jacket. And like,
I love that logo so much. It's so Alkaline Trio looking, and that's why we were just sold on it. Like I remember they showed us that, and their new album had just come out, and I was like, I love this. This is everything I want, because that album is so good. Like I love that new Alkaline Trio. And then with Home Slice, Adam Williard on drums now, flawless.
Yep. So all right,
which is crazy. Last little rant real quick, which is crazy that they have that Blink Alkaline Trio concert, and it's Matt, who was in Blink, and Tom and Travis that were in a band, but then Adam, who was with Alkaline Trio, used to play drums with Tom and Angels and Airwaves, and it was just like a nice little like 3-way of 6 people.
Right. Would that just be a 6-way?
Would that be I guess what's his face, the bassist from Alkaline doesn't count, so it's a 5-way. What's a I don't know, a pentagram type of thing.
A pentaway.
Pentasexagram.
That's
we'll
it.
With that. Pensexagram.
Sexagram. Yeah. I would love. So my it's never gonna happen, but I would love a tour with Blink-182, Angels and Airwaves, Plus 44, and Boxcar Racer. The problem is, who do you have open? Like, I've spent way more brain capacity on this, trying to figure out, like, okay, So if Travis is in 3 of the 4 bands, he needs to have a break and he needs to be able to like really crush it with Blink. So maybe have Angels go before Blink, have Blink headline, but then do we have plus 44 like first so that Mark can have a break and Tom can get a break in there. And so I think the lineup would
I
be
think
Boxcar Racer plus 44, Angels, and then Blink. But
I would agree. I think Boxcar and plus 44 could swap every night if they wanted to. You know what I mean? You never know which opener is going to open. They used to do that with headlining bands where they would have like Kiss and Blue Oyster Cult. They would put like they would just alternate every night, and you never knew who you were going to get as an opener. But they both got the same amount of time to play, so you're not losing out. You know?
Right. That's so. I just saw just 2 years ago. I saw the Interrupters, Flogging Molly, and Tiger Army, and the Interrupters and Flogging Molly were taking turns headlining. And so, like
cool.
one night it would be Flogging Molly took the main spot, and I saw that show twice because when they were in Cincinnati, Amy Interrupter had COVID, and so they didn't even come to Cincinnati. They just stayed where they were, skipped 2 dates, and then went on. And I was like, well, I need to see the Interrupters, and Tiger Army is like top 5 for me, and Flogging Molly has never put on a bad show ever. And so I was like, well, my sister lives in Montana and they're going to where she is in Montana. So I'll just fly out there with a buddy and we'll see the show again. And like, they were like, yeah, like we had to give her, cause she's from that town in Montana. And so it was like a homecoming show for her. And like, it's clearly, and she even thanked Flogging Molly, like, we appreciate you guys giving us the headlining spot tonight, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's cool as shit. Like, that's so cool.
That's super rad. It's super cool. Anti-Flag and Real Big Fish did that on a tour I saw them on too one year. That was super cool.
Dude, what a freaking combo of 2 bands.
Yeah.
Like ultra happy Real Big Fish, and we're gonna murder and kill everybody. And like, what?
Yes. Yes. Oh, hey, Jay's watching. Yeah,
that's so
Jay.
crazy.
It's been a blast working with Jade. Everyone check out our Kickstarter, please. I really appreciate all the support we could get from it. It's over 100 pages, this book. It's our biggest anthology yet. It's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Like, and I'm telling you, like, the quality on the stories on this one, it's Jade and I, and Jade has a master's in art. So you can imagine like going in to submissions with somebody who's like educated and an educator in art, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so then like we really just got to digest stuff, and it was just, this is a top tier book. I didn't even get to mention really quick, but also another story that's in here that you'll get more of is Family Man by Max Flowers and Nate Price. That Kickstarter is launching March 4th. And you'll get a snippet of it inside of the horror anthology as well, which is super cool.
Nice. Cool. So, see, I knew this would happen, dude. Like, we could go for another 2 hours because I'm like, all right, now we're primed and ready to go.
So we're halfway done through the list.
Right.
We could start.
So 2 more things though, and then I'll let you go. So the first one is we're gonna pose, and I'm gonna use that as the YouTube thumbnail. This is really just to make my life easier, so I don't have to go hunting through the recording for when we're both smiling or whatever. So I'll count to 3. I got my keyboard shortcut, and we'll pose away. So 3, 2, 1. We're gonna take a screenshot. There we go. All right. The second thing is, I love doing this show because I get to talk to cool people who love comics, and knowing that through line is present with everybody, we already have more in common than anybody else. That said, everybody has different experiences that lead them into comics. So I like to shut up and just let you have the floor. You can talk about whatever it is you want people to hear from you. It could be about how you keep 74 plates spinning all at one time. It could be about why T'Challa is the best black cat to ever live. The content of it doesn't really matter to me so much as I just want you to have a chance to speak directly to anybody that might be watching and or listening to this at any point, whenever. So the floor is yours.
Oh, wow. That's crazy pressure. I think if anyone is going to go and, make comics or try to do something in comics, is just, one, have fun and just do what you want to make. It's going to take time. Don't beat yourself up about it. Like, everything can come to fruition. You just got to manifest the hell out of it, and you've got to put in the grind. And the grind doesn't have to be I'm gonna be real snotty and say this. It doesn't have to be the Greg Capullo throwing people under the bus because they didn't finish deadlines on time for the grind. You know what I mean? Or killing your entire social or family life. Like you could find a balance. I guess I'm proof of that of some sort. I'm still saying I guess I smoke a lot of weed too, but that's beside the fact. But like if you just go out there and just do it and just show up. If you just show up, dude, like that's it. Like, dude, I can't even draw and I show up to Spilled Ink every Thursday and I just draw for 2 hours. Like that's half the battle. And I'm sure the pre-anxiety for you even before a show, like, sometimes you don't want to go do it and you have all this anxiety, but once you battle past that anxiety and that feeling of like, should I just cancel and like they, reschedule, or should I just make this easier, or should I just not get up and do it? Should I just like, I'm only going to do it for 10 minutes. Is it even worth it? Yes, it's worth it. Just do it for however long that your time of day and energy allows you to, and stuff will happen. You'll never know, ask the questions, talk to the people, go to cons, support indie artists, like, and they'll support you back. That's literally all I do. I just support other people and I'm just nice. Like, I guess, I don't know. And if you meet me in person, it's the same thing. Like, there's no difference. Like, ask Jade. Jade can vouch for me. Like, we've only met online. We got to hang out at Baltimore Comic Con. Same Brandon. I'm just as annoying and scattered and probably just as high. So it's all gonna be the same. So you just be real and just do it, I guess, and find a good team. That really just make a difference. Find a good team.
It does.
I love my team in Apollo. Every single person in Apollo does their own contribution of some sort, and I'm so lucky and fortunate for what it's become, from a podcast I was just doing in my house to like whatever the fuck. Do we have a website? We have hats now. Go buy a hat. Please go buy a hat. They look so cool. Go buy some comics. We have the broadcast dialogues out. We have Campfire Chronicles. I guess that's another anthology. I never thought about that. It's like a collection of Alex Bat's shorts that kind of came out.
So that's
and
8.
It's 8. Oh, so there's the punk anthology. There's Cybersync. There's Shadow. And there's a horror anthology. This Comic Kills Fascist, Campfire, and the 2 new ones. That's 8.
Yeah.
It's 8. Yeah, it's 8. I never count Campfire as that. But we have all of our books on our website, and there's going to be so many coming out this year. We have our French creator, Marie Morgan, who's working on Sugar Rush and Bloody S'mores. And we have Eric Allred and Ben Collins with Imran and Arnold doing Too High to Die. And also Eric and Ben and Jackie are doing Outer Space #3 this year. Me and Evan are releasing more of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy. You'll definitely see more of broadcast dialogues this year, more fleshed out story, and the Damons. I'm so excited for that Kiss Spawn comic. But we just have so many comics. It's just, there's something there for everyone. We're just a bunch of punk rock emo kids trying to make cool stories and tell some passionate comics.
Hey, those are my people.
Yeah. Just make the comic. You just make the comics you want. Look at that. You know what I mean? We're all just sci-fi, punk rock, like little. I'm wearing a Jack Kirby shirt. Like, come on, like this is all it is. Yeah.
I have a indie comics shirt on for Boneheads.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, like I try when I have indie comic shirts to pull them out of my drawer. I have so many freaking t-shirts. Like every time I look at how many I have and they're like spilling out of my drawers, I'm like, I really need to get rid of some of these. And then I look at them, I'm like, yeah, but I can't get rid of any of my music shirts. I can't get any of my comic shirts. I can't get rid of any of my
I was in high school when I saw him on tour, and a Human Abstract shirt, if anyone knows who the Human Abstract is. So.
The Blink shirt that I got when I saw them in 2003 fell apart because I wore it so much. Like
I had one of those too.
Armpits were blown out.
It was a self-titled one, like it was a square picture and it said Blink 182 on the back. But yeah, everything. It was rags. You know what I mean? There's just
I was like, I can't even salvage this. Like, I just gotta get
one more wash could just destroy it.
Yeah, I'll wash it and it won't come out. Like, it'll just be gone because it's just disintegrated. Dude, thanks for hanging out. Like, this was a blast. And I gotta feel like I wish I could have planned into my financial 2025 to get to IC3 because there's going to be so many freaking rad people there. But have a blast.
You can watch the documentary.
And yeah, I'm absolutely going to, because I'll live vicariously through that. But no, thank you for hanging out with me. That's those are the things, man. I don't have anything else. You got
Thank
stuff
you
to
for the
do.
time and letting me rant for so long. We didn't
Absolutely.
even cover. There was so much we didn't cover still, like
Yeah.
which is insane. Like we didn't talk about the new CWS programming. We didn't talk about the Blue Line paper. We didn't talk about the other Apollo stuff that I don't remember at the moment. There's just so much, dude. But we'll be on
So
again.
many
We'll
things.
talk soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's it. Thanks for sounding off, everybody, in the comments about your nerdy dogs that are named after characters. My dog is named Fitzsimmons after the amazing couple in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We just call him Fitz all the time. But like, I love that that's a thing that came up on the show.
Yes.
We are animal friendly here on the Long Box Punk, and we are definitely indie comic friendly. So what is a good show? Hang out after the end. I got some logistics for you, Brandon. What's a good podcast without a good tagline? This one's mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read some indie comics. We are out of here. And I'm going to end it right there.